Welcome, everyone, to the DCR Out Loud. My name is Tara McKinney, and I'm the Public Outreach Director of the Division of Cannabis Regulation. I'm here today with DCR Director Amy Moore, my co-host. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I think I'm okay. How are you?
Good.
Okay, good.
We have lots of exciting things happening today.
Yes, we do. Lots to cover.
In this episode, we're going to talk about MCRC. We had a great meeting earlier this month, and we're going to talk about recall and administrative holds and what that looks like from our side. Then we'll have a Microbusiness Town Hall that we had earlier this month, talking with Lesley about that. And in the No Zone, we're going to be talking about Complia. So really fun-packed episode happening. So let's get to it.
Jumping around, but all very interesting.
All right, let's go. So on January 22nd, the division held the Missouri Cannabis Regulation Collaborative quarterly meeting. And for those of you who are not familiar, the collaborative is a group made up of facility licensees from around the state. And currently there are 28 members. We have room for 30.
Yeah. Yes. So we're pretty maxed out with our current group. It's a group that's really created additional collaboration between the division and licensees, and it really focuses on big picture topics that impact the Missouri cannabis industry and how they are regulated or will be regulated, what's going to happen. These are the kinds of things that we really like to bring people in and who have thoughts about this, who are willing to contribute those thoughts. It's really helpful to us.
Yeah, so we met here in Jefferson City, and we had on the agenda this meeting agent IDs. We talked about those, kind of given a rundown, which you can find lots of information on our website. We'll talk a little bit more about those. We had DCR staff come down from compliance and enforcement and talk about recalls and administrative holds and what that looks like from a DCR side. Really going to dig into that and have our special guest here to talk about that. And then we talked about big picture items that some of our licensees may be struggling with. So we'll dive into all of those.
Before we do really get into those, particularly the recall and administrative hold process, always a popular topic, let's touch base on some of those other agenda items that were covered.
Okay, yes. DCR held its first post-certified law enforcement training in Jefferson City on January 16th. The training, DCR and Law Enforcement, a collaboration, is designed to offer law enforcement a better understanding of DCR's roles and responsibilities regarding regulated cannabis. This is a free training that provides 3 hours of continuing education credits, and the initial training day engaged 32 individuals representing the Missouri Highway Patrol, Mid-Missouri Drug Task Force, Missouri Division of Fire Safety, and 16 different police and sheriff's departments. DCR plans to hold additional trainings around the state this spring. Very, very happy with the way it turned out for our first training and look forward to meeting people coming up this spring and summer.
Yeah, you guys did such a great job with that, both with putting it together and presenting it, and the engagement that you were able to elicit during that first day of training was really encouraging. I'm excited to see how that continues to develop and what collaboration can benefit all of us. So really excited about that. So at the MCRC, we also talked about agent IDs. We won't get too much into that because we have, like you said, a lot of information on our website. We also covered that in a recent podcast. So if anybody wants to, they can go back and listen to that. And it's also covered in our newsletter. So a lot of different methods of getting that information out because it is very important. We're aware that the new process may take a little more planning on the licensee's part because due to the process that the FBI requires, we're really only allowed to interact directly with the applicants who are wanting to get an agent ID and give them access to the code that they need to go get those fingerprints after they've submitted an application. So, in the past, we used to be able to give out that code to anyone. They could go get those fingerprints ready and wait. waiting, and it was a real quick turnaround on our part once they applied. But that's not the right process anymore. Individuals will have to apply, then we can give them the code, then they can get their fingerprints. It's going to take a little bit longer. So we know that affects licensees, and we want to be really aware, or want to do a great job at communicating all this information so everybody can plan. So newsletter, podcast, website, it's all out there. And I think the other important thing to remember is in that process, if you are applying for an agent ID, DCR will be contacting you with the information that you need, with that code to let you know it's time and anything else that you need to know. So pay really close attention to your email, whatever email you provide as part of that process, because we will be in touch.
Yeah, and the best thing to do if you have questions or concerns, we have that toll-free line at 866-219-0165. They are open 9 to 4, Monday through Friday, or you can send an email to cannabis.mo@health.mo.gov. One really cool thing about MCRC was that we asked collaborative members about what keeps them up at night when thinking about the future of Missouri's cannabis industry. There was some really great discussion.
I love that question. And I really love how this group is getting so comfortable, giving their thoughts and contributing to a discussion. And not everybody always agrees on what potential impacts could be, but it makes for such a valuable sharing of information, I think, for everybody in the room, not just for us. So some of the things that we discussed were market demands, market dynamics, changes, expectations in the market, the potential for new legislation and how that might affect the existing market now, impacts of the illicit market, that's still out there. And while some states seem to struggle with that more, it is something that the law specifically says is, one of the purposes of having this regulated program is to not to have a positive impact in that area. So that's something that I think, just from a business standpoint, of course, our licensees think about, but also just from a purpose and mission of Article 14, that's something to be thinking about as well.
That was just the first kickoff meeting of 2025, and we look forward to meeting quarterly this year. If you have topics that you would like us to bring forward to the MCRC, please email me at tara.mckinney@health.mo.gov. We're always willing to bring those forward to the members. And then, of course, like we are today, we'll share that information with you afterwards.
Yeah, we really want to emphasize that those who've interacted with us over time would agree that we are always open to hearing about concerns, questions. We certainly take requests to meet all the time. So you can contact Tara through that email. She'll make sure to get it taken care of, whatever it is, right? You'll take care of whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure. So for more information on MCRC, you may visit cannabis.mo.gov and click on the DCR Communication and Resource tab. Okay, so now it's time to talk about recalls and administrative hold processes and what that entails from a DCR perspective.
Yeah, we heard a lot from licensees with questions about things, their experience of a hold. So things coming off hold, going back on hold. Why does that happen? Why, maybe were some products not on hold initially and then on hold later? And so we thought it would be really helpful to bring our experts into that MCRC meeting and here today to talk about what's actually happening on our side that others may be experiencing on their side as a licensee. So we have Don Kinghorst and Megan Bailey here to talk about some of these processes that we go through when implementing holds or recalls. Hi, Don. Hi, Megan.
Hi,
welcome.
guys.
Is this your first time on the podcast?
It is.
It is. Yes.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah. Going out across the country, I guess. Do we have any out-of-state listeners that you know of?
I don't know. Shout out to them if we do.
Yeah, let us know.
Reveal yourself.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Go ahead and introduce yourselves.
Yeah. So Don Kinghorst, I am the Bureau Manager for Facility Compliance. Been in that position now for about 7-8 months. So happy to be here, and we're getting things moving forward.
You know, I'm noticing you have an excellent radio voice.
Yeah, he does.
I've noticed that before. Yeah, Megan.
This is Casey Kasem.
Yeah, right. And I am Megan Bailey. I'm the track and trace supervisor here in DCR. So I basically do all things metric.
Excellent.
Yes.
Invaluable.
First of all, just tell the audience, like, what is an administrative hold? In
Totally.
case they don't know.
So an administrative hold is a status that's given to marijuana product by the department that prohibits any activity with the marijuana product, including waste, sale, or transfer of that product until the hold is lifted. We basically place an admin hold when we identify a product or products that may pose a threat to public safety. So that could be for many reasons, such as not testing items in accordance with rule, not properly tracking product in the statewide track and trace system, not properly listing ingredients that may pose a threat to public safety, providing false and misleading information to the public, and if a product is identified as a failed test.
How do you notice those things? How do you notice that these things are happening? That was a long list.
That is a long list.
Yeah.
So we are looking at metric every single day. So we come across kind of anomalies every day. So if something stands out with a product in general, if it didn't go through the right processes, if it wasn't tested properly, things like that, then we basically will put a hold on it until we can complete an investigation and ensure that that product is safe.
That's great. What's next once you determine that a recall is necessary?
Yeah, so once we determine a recall is necessary, at that point we've determined that there is a threat to public safety. We've confirmed it through investigation, and then we put that notification in place on our website. We also send email notifications out to licensees. Then they start the process of collecting product back from consumers, from other licensees. Then what happens to them next is going to depend on the specific situation, but in most cases, options are destruction. Sometimes they're just held until everything is finalized for potentially being able to use those again, and often remediation is an option.
I did want to mention that we won't really know the total number of packages that are affected until those holds are placed. That way we can ensure that all downstream packages that have been repackaged and have been distributed are also placed on hold. And then also you had mentioned earlier packages going on and off hold. That is actually part of the process that Dawn was speaking to of what we do with those products afterwards. So if it is a product where voluntary destruction has been requested or a transfer back to its originating facility is requested, you may see a package come on and off hold. That is due to the child packages that are associated with that package. So if a package comes off hold in your facility, that doesn't necessarily mean it's ready to go. Definitely should be reaching out to compliance officers to see what the status of those packages are.
If we're going to remove anything from hold in the sense that now it's free to be sold, rather than just as part of this process that we're working through, we would notify everybody that, for instance, that list that we made available to everyone about what products are on hold is being adjusted or being not withdrawn, but satisfied in some way, right?
Yes,
what does
absolutely.
That notification look like?
So basically that list does get updated with any packages that have been removed. So it should be a true list of what is currently on admin hold. Again, if there's any question on a package, always best to just reach out to your compliance officer and get the details surrounding that package.
Great. So over time, and particularly in some fairly recent recalls, we heard some feedback from licensees that they had some product that was kind of swept up in a hold that they didn't feel was really of the category that we intended. And in some cases, we were able to confirm that is true. That did happen in some cases. So what are some tips that you can give to help avoid tags getting caught up in a recall that aren't really subject to the identified problem?
Right. So a couple of things, Amy, licensees can do. They can ensure the proper use of production batches. Always when you're remaking something or making something, you want to make sure that you're separating them from the last thing by using production batches and also by using product categories. Proper use of metric is going to go a long way in making sure that you don't have items that are getting caught up in these holds where they shouldn't be.
Totally. A couple other good things to just keep in mind is, one, do not send out your source tags. Those should stay in the originating facility. Reason for that is it maintains traceability. So definitely hold on to your source tags. The next one would be limit your rework. If you are using rework while you're making gummies, or if you're using tails from different batches of distillate, trying not to continuously wrap them into that next batch, because essentially you're then tying in every single batch. If something further down the line is flagged as contaminated, it's now going to hold up every single tag that you did that rework in.
Wow.
So just a good process to try to kind of limit that at certain points.
Yeah.
Another thing to make sure you do is when you have product that's finished, make sure that you review the packaging and labeling before you send it out. Make sure that there's nothing false and misleading on there. Our team has approved that packaging, but we don't know what you actually put on it before it goes out the door to make sure that it's compliant. So double check it yourselves to make sure.
Yeah, right. Our approval process is about whether what is required to be there is there on the packaging, some other things, but we're not in that approval process actually in the facility checking to make sure that what you did matches that packaging.
Right.
Now, that's part of compliance activities, of
Yep.
course, but I love that tip. Actually, I love all of them, and I hope our licensees get the chance to listen to this, because that all, while maybe if you're not a licensee, this is pretty technical.
Absolutely.
It's also incredibly helpful for especially the individuals in the facilities who are conducting these operations. That's really
Absolutely.
great info. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to mention as well, Metric has updated all of their training videos as well.
Oh.
So if you take the Metric Learn courses, those are actually made created from our supplemental guide. So it is pinpointed towards our rule. Really, really good information in there. And then we also just posted our listening session that we did a few months ago regarding production batches. And that gives some really good details of how and when to use them as well.
Mhm. That's great.
That is amazing. That's awesome. Well, thank you guys both so much for coming on. Is there anything else you want to add?
If you have any questions or any doubts, reach out to your compliance officer.
Yeah, when
They're
in
always there
doubt.
for you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you
you.
so much for coming. Have a
Yeah.
good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's about that time. It's time for the Know Zone, keeping you in the know on cannabis information. Take it away, Lindsey.
Thanks so much, Tara. This week in the Know Zone, I'm being joined by Robin May. Welcome, Robin. Please tell us a little bit about your role here in DCR.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsey, for having me on. My name is Robin May, and I am the manager of the Facility Application Services Unit, and that's part of the Patient and Application Services team.
We're talking a little bit about applications, application processing. Is there a system or anything where everyone should go to put in these applications?
Yeah, great question. So actually, we use Complia as our application vendor, and so any individuals that are seeking licensure, whether that be an individual such as an agent, a caregiver, or a patient, or even a consumer cultivator, should use Complia to then fill out their application and submit that to us for processing. This system also relates to our facilities applicants as well. So transporters currently can still submit their applications to us for processing. And as you know, Microbusiness, those individuals can apply when those rounds are open and available as well through the Complia system for us to process.
Robin, it sounds like your team is really helping everyone out in their day-to-day applications, from individuals who need licensure all the way through facilities. Is there any frequently asked questions that you get pretty often from these applicants? Anything that you'd like to pass on to the general public as they're embarking on this application process?
Yeah, actually, there are quite a few questions that we get most often. So I will also like to say the individual licensing unit, which is the sister unit that we have to the FAS, they are actually the frontline team that take in a lot of those inquiries. So when you call the call center, that's the frontline team you speak with. So those individuals take on a lot of, I would say, frequently asked questions as far as how do I even get started with applying? Where do I need to go? What website do I need to utilize? And along with how do I upload documents tends to be quite often something that they do ask. And then downloading a license tends to be an area that individuals are a little bit confused about when it comes to using the system and how to best use it for what they're attempting to do. So I will say the individual licensing unit, they are a wealth of knowledge. So when people do call in, and I'll give that phone number here towards the end of this segment, they also get a lot of frequently asked questions about trying to access their account. Like if they've been an individual before, maybe they can't access their account. So they will reach out to say, hey, I need to reset my password, but it's not giving me the option. It could be that you need to have a different email associated with your account. So ILU gets a lot of those inquiries of how to update or how to change that information. And then from there, those individuals are great with relaying information of how to either make that update or how we can fully assist you in that process. So the ILU team is a great resource. They can help you through your application through a specific section. Like if you're unsure of how to upload an image or a document.
The ILU team does sound like a wealth of information. Do they field any other types of questions as well? You said that the ILU team is the sister unit to the Facility Application Services team. With that, it sounds like you guys' work is a little bit parsed out with the individual licensing unit, helping take care of more of those individual licenses being the agents, caregivers, home cultivators, patients. With that, for the Facility Application Services, the team that you oversee, do you help them with any other sort of routine applications, or is it more along the lines of those open application rounds and actually applying for a business, or do you help them with other types of applications like business change requests and things like that?
Yeah, so for the FAS unit, our main thing is kind of initial application processing. So individuals that are seeking a transporter license, they can still apply. That application is out there and to apply for. And then as far as other, I would say, licenses to apply for, microbusiness, when it does come available and the rounds are open, that would be our staff as well that do initial intake and process those applications for that initial portion and really look at the eligibility criteria. As far as like change requests, that would be with our business licensing services unit. We collab with them on our other licenses as well. So they're also a great resource to reach out to if you are a licensee and you're needing some additional assistance, whether that be through an update or just have questions in general about your license. That unit would be the unit to reach out to for those questions. When it comes to FAS, I will say our main things right now are helping individuals if they're seeking a license or certification to transport. We would be kind of the stop shop for that. So I would encourage individuals to reach out if you have any questions. We do have an email address that should I share things now or later?
Yeah, go ahead and share away. Yeah.
Okay. The best place to reach us for the FAS unit would be at our email address, and that's cannabis@health.mo.gov, and then we'll get your answer to you as soon as possible.
What about for those individual licensing unit, all of those agents and the general public who may be seeking licensure? How do they get a hold of them?
Great question, Lindsey. Thank you so much. For those individuals seeking assistance with their individual licenses that they're wanting to apply for, that would be the individual licensing unit. So they can be reached by phone or email. Either option is whatever works best for the individual reaching out. So by phone, it's 866-219-0165. And then their email address, which is also a good one, it's cannabisinfo, I-N-F-O, at health.mo.gov. And so either way, they can route your questions. If they don't know the answer right away, they are great at kind of reaching out to other sections in the division to get you the best answer possible. The call center hours, they are available Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Anytime that we have a closing, that information will be posted to the website.
Thank you so much, Robin. Thanks for stopping by. I always enjoy seeing you in the hallway, and now I get to know a little bit more about what FAS does and what you're responsible for and all the great things that you're doing around here in DCR. So thank you so much again.
Yeah, thanks, Lindsey. Thanks for having me on.
So just to recap everything that we've talked about today, We have a couple of different licensing units that help out with the application process. All of our applications are taken in through our online portal called Complia. This can be found on our website, and this is where any individual would go to seek an agent ID, a medical card, a caregiver card, or even a personal cultivation at your home. Also, we have our facility application services unit. They are responsible really for ensuring that these applications are complete for facilities moving through the application process and helping complete those applications along the way. We do currently have transportation applications open, so anyone seeking a transportation license for marijuana products may fill out that application as soon as today. Another round of microbusinesses is working through the process. We are working on nailing down different timelines and dates for when that open. Please check back to DCR's website, and we will be making announcements as soon as those decisions are being made. It sounds like, Robin, you have maybe a lot of work ahead of you here in the near future. Good luck. We know that it's a booming industry, so we've seen some pretty consistent application numbers over the years, and over 2,000 applications in almost every round so far. So I know that it's a big task for you and your team.
Thank you so much, Robin. It's been great. And now we know all about Complia thanks to the No Zone.
All right, so next up, I'm here with Lesley Turek, our Chief Equity Officer, and we are going to talk a little bit about a recent event that we had, a Microbusiness Town Hall, which I think we were all excited about having, and it really turned out great. So I'd like us to go through it a bit and share with everybody what that was all about. Does that sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. So first, could you tell us a little bit, what was the intention behind having this? What did we want to do with a microbusiness town hall?
I think mainly it was to share information.
Yeah.
I think we do a really good job at DCR sharing information, but I think there's always people that are just missed in the mix a little bit. So I think having that availability to them in the evening, because we had it in the evening. A lot of people that own micro businesses work a second job.
Yeah.
So they are very busy during the day. So having it in the evening was really helpful. And it was really just to be able to address everyone all together instead of trying to answer individual questions, because we get so many questions about so many different things. So it was nice to just have general topics, do some discussion about them, and then open that up for questions and answers, which I think was a really positive part of that webinar.
Yeah, I think so too. What were some of the general topics that we decided we would cover before getting into Q&A?
So I know we talked about the draft rule revisions because that's a forefront in everyone's mind.
Yeah.
We also talked about variances, what's available to them and why we have variances, what we can vary from, what we can't. And then I've already forgotten the other one.
Oh, I think it was, we did talk about partnerships.
Yeah.
Yep. And potential for financing, a lot of opportunity for investment. But of course, there are some things that no licenses can do because of the rules and the law. So yeah, that was good. I think we got a lot of questions beforehand, right? We sent up that agenda ahead to him, but we also asked, go ahead and send us your questions beforehand. That was really helpful, and we're able to go through some of that before we got into the open Q&A.
Yeah, I thought there were some really great questions that were submitted beforehand.
Absolutely.
And that just kind of gave us a chance to see where people were starting at.
Yeah.
And then I also think those really helped direct the discussion as we moved into the Q&A, because there seemed to be a lot of questions that stemmed off of those once people heard those questions that were asked previously. It really prompted more people to ask.
Yeah, that was great. When we got into that Q&A session, there was coming in, fast and furious. We had some folks who were utilizing that function in the chat to raise their hand, others that were actually putting their questions in the chat box. I think we got to everybody who asked a question or raised their hand, covered a lot of topics. It was really interesting, the spread of interest. Some folks really, asking about the application process all the way to getting ready to commence. And that was big news, hearing from the community that there are so many that are really on the cusp of asking for commencement. That was encouraging.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think it's a really exciting time.
Mm-hmm.
That round one group of licensees, they're getting closer and closer to that operational deadline. And I know some of them are like really feeling the pressure, but some of them have really planned every single step, and they know exactly where they're at and how close they are. And those are the individuals really that have been in communication, either with me or with their compliance officer a lot. Even with the facility development unit, they've been contacting them, working with them on their SOPs or their other documentation that they're going to need to commence. So it's a really exciting time, especially with those wholesalers, seeing them getting up and moving and going and having product ready for sale. I think it's really exciting.
Yeah. It was great to get the group together for the entire group to hear about all that progress, because, we hear things directly from licensees, but that doesn't necessarily get shared out, because what we hear, we generally, keep to ourselves.
Right.
Don't want to step over anybody's confidentiality or what they're doing personally with their business. But that was really great to hear folks talking about that as a group. Just overall, what do you think coming out of it was the biggest benefit of having done it?
I think there are several benefits, and we definitely have to do it again.
Yeah.
I just think it's such a great opportunity to hear from people, hear their voice. We don't always get to hear voices of everybody. I think there were 2 or 3 things that really stood out to me. There's some very practical things that we need to do as an agency. And I think we offered those to them. And I've already heard from licensees, for example, a red flag review of an agreement. Like, will this work? Is this going to be compliant? And they're already calling and saying, now, who do I send that to? Who's going to do that? How long is that going to take?
Yeah.
So there's already interest in that, which I think is fantastic. There were some assurances given, like, we are working with you in every way that we can. And if that means we prioritize commencement inspections, like, we'll move you guys quickly through them as fast as we can. I think our compliance officers are great at that anyway.
Yeah, we get such good feedback about our compliance officers and their collaboration with microbusiness licensees. It's really great to hear.
Yeah, and I really do love to stress to licensees, we're here to help you. We're not here to make this harder on you. We want you to get up and operational and going, and we want to see the program move forward. So we're going to do everything we can to help as much as we can. But I think the biggest takeaway for me is communication and relationship building with those licensees. There's still a little bit of that trepidation of, oh, you're the big bad DCR and you might come after me for something. And that's really not what my job is or what the purpose of DCR is. Yes, we do have to help regulate the industry as a whole. That includes microbusinesses. We have to regulate them, but we're also here as a resource, and we want to hear from licensees. We want to hear complaints and concerns and issues. Those are all important things. We also want to hear the great things that are happening.
That'd be great too, yes.
Yeah. And I will say, let's see, our webinar was on the 19th. So it's been about a week, the webinar to this recording, and I have heard from daily, several licensees daily, and different ones every day, either with questions or concerns, or I have a problem, to, hey, that was really fun. I just called to check on you, Lesley. And I'm like, thanks.
That's great.
Thank you. Anytime you want to call, we can just sit and talk. But it's really helpful, I think, to open up those lines of communication and for them to know, like, I am here to help as much as I can. I will be always honest and upfront and say, I don't know the answers to a lot of things. But I am in the Jefferson City office, and so I can walk down the hallway and find somebody and say, hey, I have this question. Can somebody help me find the answer to it? And everybody here has been so supportive and so helpful and quickly finds me answers that I can pass on, or I'm like, here, you can just connect with them directly, that would
Yeah.
probably be even better. So
Yeah, that's great. That's going to be, a large part of you as a resource along the way through the life of a license, making sure that they know who to talk to if they haven't already been connected with somebody with the answers. We can absolutely help with that.
Yeah, I enjoy that part of my job. It's always fun to talk to new people, and you
Right.
never know what's coming around the corner.
Yeah. So you think we'll do this again?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think
I
so
absolutely think that we need to do a town hall more than once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And I do know that there's some work on my part with some education pieces that need to be put into place. I have a lot of questions about compliance. They're not sure steps, where to go. So that's something I'm going to be talking with the compliance unit. Like, how can we get out more information? How can we support them better? Maybe do a little hand holding for a while,
Sure.
just until we can get them to the point where they feel confident. It is intimidating, I think, sometimes to try to approach that rule and figure out everything you're supposed to do and
Yeah.
understand it. So being able to just provide that information in very plain speak, and so that they understand exactly what needs to happen next.
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And that's what they're hoping for from the people that I've talked to.
Right.
They're interested in getting more information.
Yeah. So I'm really encouraged by all of that. I know that there were plenty of licensees that reached out to talk with you and get to know you before this, but I've heard and seen how busy you are in this past week. So I think that part of our message seems to have been heard, and that is really great. We've talked for years about the benefit of what we call proactive compliance, communicating expectations to licensees, having those conversations where there may be either misunderstandings or things that are unclear, so that we can all stay out of the world of enforcement. We want to ensure that our licensees are successful in being compliant. Of course, there's a whole world of innovation that can happen in the business decisions that they can absolutely make. But where there is, a framework of requirements, we want to make sure everybody understands that, so they have the opportunity to be compliant and then, go forth and create your business. And I'm hoping that that's a little more established since this town hall, that truly is our philosophy. It's what we've been doing for years. It's what we'll continue to do in the microbusiness setting.
Right.
The
And
extra added benefit of you.
I think that they want to be compliant. They want to know, how do I get to compliance, and then how do I stay there? Because they're very motivated in wanting these businesses.
Yeah.
And I think that that is true for every licensee, but especially true for microbusinesses. They really want to see the program move forward. And DCR really wants to see the program move forward as well. So.
Yes, that's so true. Okay. Well, great discussion, both that night and here today. Thank you for that. I'm really pleased to hear that people are giving us a chance to speak directly with them so they can get to know us, we can get to know them, and hopefully we're on our way to solid foundation for good relationships.
Always on our way.
Always on our way somewhere. Yes. All right. Thank you, Lesley.
Thank you.
All right.
Well, I think that wraps up this episode. We want to thank our listeners for tuning in with us today. There's lots of ways to stay informed between episodes. Subscribe to our email list to receive emails from DCR on various topics and customize them to your needs. I always tell people, if you're going to do one thing, please do this. It's a great way to get information. We're not going to bombard your email inbox, but it is a great way to stay informed on the latest. The Cannabis Connection newsletter is published quarterly. Your information linked to Missouri's Division of Cannabis Regulation. And for outreach events and more, visit cannabis.mo.gov and click on the DCR Communication and Resource tile.
Yes. So many good resources. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good one.
This podcast content is intended for adults over the age of 21 years old and is best to be used for informational purposes only. The content does not constitute official compliance or regulatory guidance. The department and author assumes no responsibility or liability for any errors or omissions in the content of this podcast. The information contained in this podcast is provided on an as-is basis with no guarantees of completeness, accuracy, usefulness, or timeliness. Cannabis licensees should consult with their assigned compliance officer for rules and regulations specific to their facility. The content is not intended to diagnose or treat any medical condition and should not be relied on for any medical purposes. Patients and the public should consult with their healthcare providers about medical-related questions and the impact of cannabis on health. If you believe you are having a medical emergency, call emergency services. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed herein are those of the authors, presenters, and do not necessarily represent the official views of, nor an endorsement by, the U.S. government, Missouri Department of Health and Senior Services, or the government of the state of Missouri.